Check me out.
Yeah. Hi, podcast listening people. As always, you should know we're grateful to have you here. We appreciate you listening. Do us this small favor. Before you leave today, don't forget, please subscribe to the show and leave a review. It helps with our rankings, and it helps, the feedback helps. We love to hear what you guys thoughts are on the show. It allows us to continue making this a great platform for you, and we are doing this for you, by the way. We're here to bring you really valuable insights and information and tools and resources and tips and tricks from the top leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, subject matter experts in Colorado. And we have an amazing guest for you today. I'm so excited to share with you the story of Karen Brown, who is an unconscious mind expert. In the field of leadership and professional performance, world-class ultra-endurance athlete, successful corporate executive, professional certified executive coach, keynote presenter, and best-selling author. Karen is a badass lady. Just going to lay it out there. She's competed in the IRONMAN World Championship in Kona, Hawaii, and has a really interesting take on psychology and how it correlates to success and leadership, and really the science behind it, which she's spent years studying and wrote her best-selling book, Unlimiting Your Beliefs. So cannot wait to share with you. Before we get there, real quick, if you're interested in partnering up with Mile High Mentors or collaborating in one way or another, it's something we're always interested in. So send us an email, milehighmentors@gmail.com. Again, milehighmentors@gmail.com, and we can find out how we could partner up together. It would be a really great opportunity. Also, real quick, if you sell products and services business to business, you probably realize that LinkedIn is the place to be, but most people don't know how to use it the right way or effectively. Our partners over at Active Blogs have a free training for you. It's called the Missing Links to LinkedIn Success. You can give that a watch for free at activeblogs.com/webinar. Again, activeblogs.com/webinar, and you can watch that free training. All right, folks, without further ado, please welcome Karen Brown to the Mile High Mentors podcast. Very excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're very, very busy. You've done, what, you said 45 podcasts in the last, what period of time? How long has it been since we talked last?
Well, in the last 5 months, I've done 45 podcasts.
Man, I promise you today is going to be the most fun and the best one you've done out of all of them. Really, because we're both locals and we're both natives. And on that note, what is your favorite part about Colorado?
The lifestyle, the outdoor lifestyle. There's some of everything here. I mean, really, the only thing we don't have is the ocean, but, it's easy enough to travel to that. Everything else, we have it here. And there's such beauty and diversity. And, I love how we've really kind of grown into ourselves as a city. And yet we've kept kind of our connective familiarity and welcoming other people. I just love that. And as an outdoor enthusiast, you cannot beat this place.
Yeah, and you are the outdoor enthusiast. You do runs every year. You do multiple runs every year, right?
So I'm an ultra endurance athlete.
Yeah.
Which means I do races, either I've done triathlons, I've also done Ironman, Ultraman. My most recent is ultra trail running, and I've done that all over the world for the past 8 years.
What's the difference between ultra trail running and just like normal trail running?
That you're going at least 50 miles or more. And it's
wow.
Yeah, 50 miles or longer. And it's always done, all in one sitting. So, I've been up for 34 hours as my longest race.
Oh, God, that's outrageous. How do you prepare? Like, how long does it take to prepare for something like that?
6 months to a year. Yeah. And, once you kind of build your base of endurance, which took me 2 years. So from 2010 to 2012, when I was pursuing the IRONMAN World Championships, which was a lifelong dream of mine, I built that solid endurance base over that 2-year period. And now what's nice is I can just, when I'm off and not training for anything specific, I can just sort of dial it back to a maintenance level of activity, which is just so fun and frankly, in my mind, easy.
Yeah, for you, maintenance level activity is probably like the extremes for other people.
It might not be as extreme as you would think. I mean, probably the most I'll do right now in this stage is 20K, which is about a half marathon. So that's not extreme in my mind. Maybe I'm a little distorted.
It could be. But what's interesting is even in the last few months, sounds like you've had some really exponential business growth and personal growth. And I know for a fact that what you do in the athletic realm directly translates to your business. Would you agree with that?
It does. It actually translates into everything for me, personal and professional. And that's one of the messages I deliver quite frequently, which is, when I was pursuing this lifelong dream of the Ironman, I looked at that as a personal dream and a personal goal. And I thought that it had nothing to do with the rest of my life, especially my professional life, my career. And I couldn't have been more wrong. It was actually, pursuing that was actually the gateway and the opener to who I was meant to be and my professional success. And by stepping through that gateway, I actually got further so much faster than, just previously focusing, solely on professional success.
And you're from Colorado. Where'd you grow up?
So I'm from the Springs.
Okay.
Colorado Springs. And then my dad got transferred a couple times. So we went to Texas and Idaho for 6 years total and then came back and settled in Denver.
Army guy?
I'm sorry?
Army guy?
No, he was in oil and gas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But then, I really consider my home to be Denver, but all of my extended family lives in Colorado Springs. And I've traveled the state pretty extensively because I've lived back here since I was 11. I'm 50 now. You've
traveled the state on your feet.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
On my feet or my bike or swimming, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So who were some of your biggest influencers before the age of 18? Or just young, like as you're growing up, who are some major influencers for you?
Number one was Julie Moss. And your audience, your listeners may not know who that is, so I'm happy to let them in on that secret. Yeah, okay. So Julie Moss was the leader in the Ironman World Championships in the second year that they held it. And it was also the first year that it was televised from Hawaii. So this is the first time I ever saw it. I didn't know what it was. I stopped dead in my tracks and was actually mesmerized, sort of like watching a train wreck. Because Julie was a college student at the time, so she was young, and she was leading the race for the women the whole way. And she hadn't fueled properly. And, this is 1982. Okay, so it's back in the Stone Age, right? I'm surprised we had video back then. And, this was before all of the science and discoveries and the current fueling techniques that we use in ultra endurance sports, right? This is when, the first guy that won in year one, he actually stopped through a McDonald's and had like a full-on Big Mac, meal so that he could fuel himself and get through the race.
Now, in all fairness, a Big Mac then could have been, decent enough to fuel a race like that, but
yeah, it could have. But people were using candy bars, Snickers, that kind of stuff, right? So she hadn't eaten really much and just kept going. And this is a difficult race, right? An Ironman is 140.6 miles, swim, bike, and run, done continuously in one day. So she was leading, but then she started to bonk, which means run out of energy. And this is totally real. She lost control of her bowels. So she had a mess, a hot mess on her hands. And she would collapse, like her muscles literally gave out, and she would collapse and fall to the ground. And then she would start crawling, and then she would make her way back up to walking, and then she would force herself to start running again. Well, this kept happening and kept getting worse and worse and worse until she collapsed about 50 yards from the finish line. And this is at night. You can see the finish line in the distance. And the number 2 competitor, Kathleen McCartney, overtook her to win the race. And that's not the most important part, because I watched this. The most important part was, even after she was beaten and she was literally on all fours on the ground, she didn't give up. She didn't stop. She actually summoned the energy and the courage to get back up and to walk and then slowly run across the finish line. Yeah, amazing. By this time, I am in tears. I am like horrified. This girl has literally a mess on the back of her shorts. And I'm thinking, what the hell is this? Why?
You must have had some sort of interest in or this just so happened to be on TV and you just caught it and you had this emotional connection to it by the very end.
Yes. I had no idea what the Ironman was. I had never been introduced to it before. I was not a triathlete. I didn't even know what that was. I was basically a recreational athlete. So I was a bit of a runner. I was a mountain biker. That was really it. I was a gym rat somewhat. I had played, organized sports on a competitive basis, but nothing like the Ironman. And so to see this, and then to see this whole drama unfold, I was just absolutely compelled. And you're right. I had this enormous emotional connection to it that shocked me, quite frankly. I didn't know why that was. So a couple of days later, I saw Julie Moss on Good Morning America, and she gave this interview, and she talked about her mental, emotional, and spiritual connection to this race, and that it was tied to who she was and what she was capable of accomplishing. And that just resonated like crazy. That shook me down to my core. And so then over the years, I would just happen to catch this coverage, and every time I had that same core feeling, only in between those times, I had this nagging sensation that I was capable of far more than the safe, outwardly successful things that I was achieving, even lying to myself. And this is, I think, a point of resonation with audience members. I was lying to myself, even in these little successes and big successes that I was experiencing, and saying to myself things like, well, the fact that I have this nagging feeling that I'm capable of more, that's it's okay. I'm doing great. Right? Like, look at this, and this. Like, I'm doing really good things, right?
Well, what do you mean by outward success what did that mean to you at that point in time?
So
I was young at that point in time, right? How old were you?
Yeah. So this is ages, I first saw the coverage when I was 14. Wow. And then, in my professional career, so say age 21 to 30, 38, let's say, I was climbing the corporate ladder. I gravitated towards leadership. I was really good at it. I became an executive, fairly young. I had a nice house. I had a really nice life. I drove a nice car. I took really good vacations. I had a nice group of friends, so outwardly everything looked great, right? But I had this nagging feeling that was getting bigger over time. Mm-hmm. And I would just, I would think of the Ironman and think, what if I have what is needed to do that? And what if I'm not tapping into that? what if I'm living this small, safe life, only doing things that I know I can? And that literally would make me feel sick inside. And then I would just like push that down with all of the evidence of outward success, right? And then I'd lie to myself and say, oh, but it's okay. Like, I have what everybody wants. I have what I think I want, right? So that's one of my messages to people. Don't lie to yourself.
Yeah, this was like 21, 22, 23 that you're having these thoughts.
Yeah.
It's very early.
Yeah.
Very early on.
Yeah. And the other thing that was happening for the 28 years that I held myself back from actually pursuing the Ironman is limiting beliefs. And this is the other big message that I talk about in every interview, because this is the number one scientifically proven thing that gets in everybody's way, that holds all of us back from achieving what we truly are capable of, right? And this is how the limiting belief works, right? This is how it worked for me. I would look at the Ironman and I would think, what if I have what it takes to achieve that? And then I would think, well, wait a minute. The athletes that compete in the Ironman are elite. They're up here. And I'm a recreational athlete. I'm down here. How could I possibly think I could compete there? And boom, the dream vanishes and just sort of vaporizes.
So
and
you
then
still buried that down for a period of time. So seeing this and experiencing this transcended your professional life first before you started transcending your physical life and actually doing these competitions.
Yeah, they were somewhat in parallel, only my personal athletic life, I'll say, lagged behind. So I was making all this progress, right, in my professional life. And in my athletic life, there were a lot of people that probably would have said, oh, yeah, I ran the Boulder 5 years in a row. I ran the Pikes Peak Ascent. I did things like that, which were accomplishments, but they were things that I was absolutely sure that I could do. There were nothing that challenged me or caused me to really blow up my comfort zone, right? To really take myself athletically to the edge of my perceived limits. No, the only thing that did that when I thought about it was the Ironman World Championships. Yeah, and basically it scared the shit out of me. Yeah, and I think all of us have something like that. Call it a dream, call it a big, hairy, audacious goal. We have something that scares the shit out of us. And maybe we have not admitted it to anyone. Maybe we've not even recognized it within ourselves. But that is the key, that when we take that on, when we pursue that, that actually opens up everything, what we are truly capable of in all areas of our life, personal, professional, relationships, purpose, everything.
And you're an expert in also the science of that stuff as well, right? In the neural like programming of is NLP kind of a criteria? Like, is that a piece that fits into what it is that you coach and talk about?
Yeah. So along this journey, I discovered the power of the neurosciences and specifically the unconscious mind, because that's where things like limiting beliefs live.
Right.
And that's also where we can conquer and transform limiting beliefs into unlimiting, which just, cutting to the end here, the results. Once I tapped into that in 2010, I actually was able to cross the finish line at the Ironman World Championships in 2 short years at the age of 46. And I had never done a triathlon before. I had never run a marathon before.
But just to go back, you mentioned that most humans have deep down that feeling, right? I think almost everybody, like, I want to be the movie star, or, whatever that big, audacious, scary thing. Almost everybody has that, no matter where they're at in their life. Mm-hmm. Is there something neurological that you've been able to connect up as humans that gives that to us? Like, is there something specific that points to the reason in our brains why we have that?
Yes. So actually, that's two-part. So what I've found scientifically that drives, that big, hairy, scary, audacious dream or goal is hope, and is our unconscious mind and our spirit actually wanting to realize who we really are and to live that full out. That's in my mind our potential, right? What we were put on earth to do, what we are naturally gifted at, right? And I was able to discover that. So that's part one. Then part two of it is actually how your unconscious mind is wired, right? So our unconscious mind was actually created to keep us safe and to keep us alive. Mm. So if you think about caveman times, right? Our unconscious mind had to instantly judge something that was happening as to whether it was friend, foe, or food, and get us to act accordingly instantaneously, right? So it's a judging mechanism. And here's the thing. The unconscious mind, to keep us safe and to keep us alive, is always going to err on the side of doing what we've always done and keeping us in our safe, cozy comfort zone. Okay? Because if we are to expand that or even to step outside of that, it's uncomfortable, right? It's unknown. Our unconscious mind says, danger, danger, danger. We don't know what's going to happen outside of there. We've got to keep you safe and alive. And, pursuing something like the Ironman seems dangerous, right? It's going to take me to the very edge of what I think my limits are.
Has anybody died doing the Ironman?
I think a few people have. Yes. Wow. Yeah. Even someone died at a local triathlon here in Denver years ago. It was just an accidental thing, but nevertheless. But, think about any
they choked on a hot dog like after the fact.
Right. Yeah. But think about any endeavor, like think about mountain climbing, or scaling El Capitan, like that makes it very real. But yeah, anything that is going to, in your mind, push you to your limit, even past your perceived limit, right? Because that's really all it is. A limit is a perception that you have, right? But anything that is going to take you outside of that, your unconscious mind, because it operates as a very simplistic machine, your unconscious mind looks at it and says, oh, no, we don't want to do that. That could put us in harm's way. That could mean danger to us. No, we don't want to do that. So that's why that's the first reaction, that I was feeling to thinking about doing the Ironman. And that's what happens with all of us human beings.
It's interesting how a lot of the caveman brain stuff is still stuck with us in a world where danger it means something totally different now. So we as humans really have to evolve to be able to fulfill our full capacity. But it's so interesting that we have that drive to do it, even though there's the fear, like public speaking. You do a lot of public speaking, right? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that, traditionally public speaking is in a tribal setting, if you're speaking in front of a group, you're usually on trial of some sort, right? And so that has evolved us to have this weird fear of public speaking. But we overcome it. We tackle the triathlon, we tackle the business task. Or have you identified that there's some key mechanisms or triggers, like somebody who really feels there's no possible way they can reach those really big, audacious goals? Like, what are some of those mechanisms or triggers that they can use to start changing their brains, start changing those thought patterns?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because I do have the key to that.
Oh,
yeah. All right. So this is where it gets really exciting because, like you said in the first part of what you just shared, it's so interesting that, we're so evolved in the world, but our unconscious mind is still operating like that of a caveman. And that's exactly what is happening. Okay. So it makes all the sense then that when from a scientific level, you can understand how your brain operates, how your unconscious mind operates, and how you can rewire it, right? Basically, how you can hack it so that you can do what you want. You can get the results that you want. You can get the outcome that you want. Then that's what you should do. So here's how it works. Remember when I mentioned limiting beliefs? So that and a limiting belief actually sounds like this. And maybe you're verbalizing it or maybe you're just thinking it, but it's anytime we say or think something like, well, I don't have enough talent, time, money, support to achieve X. That is the essence of a limiting belief.
Focusing on what is lacking to achieve X.
Yes. And so I actually have this on my website, velocityleadershipconsulting.com. I actually provide a document for you to walk you through this technique of transforming and conquering that limiting belief and unlimiting it. So in a nutshell, it goes like this. First of all, we have to uncover what your limiting belief is. Because I get this question a lot. People will ask, well, hey, what if I don't even know what the limiting belief that's holding me back is? Like I knew mine just from going through it for 28 years, but a lot of people don't. They just see that they're holding themselves back, but they don't know why.
Or that they're not even that they're holding themselves back, but that they're not achieving. Right?
Yeah.
They may not even see it that they're holding themselves back.
Right. Absolutely right. Yeah. So starts with, first of all, sitting yourself down with this document in front of you, because it's got to be done on paper. It can't be done digitally. Okay. Doing something on paper, writing something down, seeing something, even verbalizing something, those are all doorways into the unconscious mind. Okay. And that's where we're going with this. All right. So this is also a time to be in a distraction-free environment, which means shutting off the mobile device.
Stop. You're going to have to stop you right there.
It's crazy talk, right? Who even knows that thing has a shut off, right?
I know.
Yeah.
It's funny that people have such a challenge, just total tangent here for a second, but people have such a challenge with being able to be with their own thoughts, right? That's something I've had to fight to overcome for my own personal development. And they've done studies where it's like you'll set someone in a room and they would rather electrocute themselves than be sitting with their own thoughts quietly for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, that's it.
Yeah. It's staggering.
Yeah, but distractions alone, like eliminating distractions, sitting down, writing something, that's the starting place is what you're saying.
So shut off the computer, shut off your notifications, shut off all screens on all devices. Yeah, because this only takes 5 minutes or less. Like this is fast, right? I mean, the processing speed of your unconscious mind is faster than the speed of light. Wrap your head around that for a second.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
where does that come from? Where did you get that from?
Oh gosh, that's scientifically proven.
Really?
Yeah. It's 1,000,000 times faster processing speed than your conscious mind. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it operates lightning fast. Only the only time it slows down is when we get in the way of it. Right? Yeah. So this 5 minutes or less, honestly. Okay. So sit down in distraction-free environment, use our document that is called Unlimiting Your Beliefs or Conquer Limiting Beliefs. Okay. So the first way that we discover what your limiting belief is by asking yourself this question. What is stopping me from achieving X? And X is, that big, hairy, scary, audacious dream or goal. So what's stopping me from achieving X? And the first thing that pops into your mind, that is your number one limiting belief. Jot that down. Now, you may find in asking yourself that question that more than one thing pop into your brain. Write those down. They're all limiting beliefs. When I did this, I thought I only had that one.
Mm.
I had an entire page. It was unbelievable. And once I wrote them all down, I just sat there and, sort of sat back and went, oh my gosh, no wonder I've been holding myself back from this for 28 years. I didn't even realize all this crap was going on in my head.
And was it the Ironman? That's what you were writing your limited beliefs on, of
Yes.
why you couldn't do the Ironman?
Yeah. The Ironman was my ex. What's stopping me from pursuing the Ironman World Championships?
Right.
Yes. And then that's what I wrote, all the limiting beliefs. I unearthed them from my head.
Do you still continue to do this regularly?
Yes, because here's the thing. As much as we progress, so even though I crossed the finish line, sorry about that.
No problem.
See, just no distractions, right?
Just getting blown up over here.
I know. Yeah. So even though I crossed the finish line at the Ironman in 2012, and I've, since done much bigger, tougher, longer races for the last 8 years across the globe, I still come face to face with limiting beliefs. And, it might be in my business, it might be in my personal life, it might be in a relationship, but you've got to understand again that is how your unconscious mind works. That's how it's wired. And it thinks that it's keeping you safe from something, but it's really not. So I got to use that hack every time, and even though I'm a published author of 2 books on this and I'm a subject matter expert, you bet I still have to unlimit my beliefs. Yeah.
How'd you start building your expertise in this arena? Like, what was the fascination for you to focus on the science of the brain?
Once I understood the science behind limiting beliefs and quite frankly, that limiting beliefs were a thing, right? I didn't even know what that was prior to, this. I took a class where we actually, within the class, we talked about limiting beliefs. And I came face to face with it and then looked up the science behind it and discovered the whole field of neurosciences. And then I had done 28 years of business coaching up to that point. And I was a fairly successful business coach. I mean, this was before outside coaches were being used in companies, right? So I was a leader and I would just, coach my team members, and I was pretty good at it. But I always found that there was this point that we couldn't get past. And I never knew what would open that up until I discovered the neurosciences. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the key that unlocks all of that stuff. This is the key to higher levels of performance within human behavior. This is what unlimits all of us and enables every single person out there to realize their potential. So then I had an insatiable appetite to understand it and learn all that I could. And along the way, I was able to unlimit my own roadblocks, right? Because I had some blind spots as a leader. I wasn't the best leader I could be back then. I was a good leader.
This was your own business back then that you had started doing this, or this was through a third-party company?
This is when I still worked in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I founded Velocity, my own company, in 2012, shortly after crossing the finish line at Kona. But before then, yeah, I was big into the corporate scene and climbing the corporate ladder. And I thought that that's what I was meant to do. Right. So I really jumped into the neurosciences because I just wanted to be the best leader I could be. I wanted to perform the best that I could at work and in my personal life. And I also wanted to be the best I could be for my team members. Yeah.
So with the consulting, I guess you were building context around it and had intuition of the principles that worked. And once you matched the neuroscience with it, then it really clicked.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Then I was able to bring it all together, to connect it all up. And specifically, it started with limiting beliefs and how to transform them. Then I discovered 6 other keys that then I wrote my book about. So the book is Unlimiting Your Beliefs, 7 Keys to Greater Success in Your Personal and Professional Life. Mm-hmm. And it's received a 5-star glowing review from the legendary Brian Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
Who happens to be a friend. Yeah, he's awesome. And also Amazon has called it the #1 hot new release. But that aside, I really wrote that book because I wanted to share these top 7 keys that are scientifically proven to make it easier for us to achieve what we want in anything, right? So then after writing the book, I just wanted to take it bigger. And I thought, what's my mission with this? What do I really want to do with this? And that mission is to eradicate limiting beliefs and transform our world. Because when we unlimit our own beliefs, the world, our lives are transformed, and that transforms our connections with other people and transforms the world.
Besides the limiting beliefs side, is there like one or two other key components that you feel really holds people back?
Yes. Tapping into the dream. So remember how we talked a moment ago about, what is that big, scary, audacious, ridiculous, outrageous sounding thing that you really want to do, that when you think about it, it scares the shit out of you, and it also energizes and ignites you from within. So tapping into that is an actual scientific key. So in the book, it's called Tapping into the Dream. And I take you through a technique on actually how to tap into the power of your unconscious mind so that you can achieve that dream. Also, something fun that's a play on words that I really like to use, especially in our current culture, is another key called no discipline. And this is so counterintuitive to what we're hearing right now, right? With things like grit.
N-O or K-N-O?
It's N-O.
Yeah.
So like no discipline, zero discipline. Yeah. And it's intentionally a play on words, right? Because we're hearing things right now like just have enough discipline, use grit, use motivation, determination, even extreme ownership, right?
Right.
Those are all very conscious actions. But the reason I use no discipline is because it's having the discipline to say no to the things that are going to get in your way of achieving what you want. So, for me, I had to learn those things the hard way. I killed my TV, when I started pursuing the Ironman. I had to schedule myself and be much more efficient than I ever had. I had to learn how to focus really intently on each thing and not have all this distraction and chatter going on, which is our current state, of operation.
We're busier than ever. We're more productive than ever, but I catch myself all the time how distracted we are. Do you use any practices like a specific like meditation practice or anything for that focus?
I have used meditation, yes. I'm able to just do it now naturally. So it's, we talk about behavioral patterns, right? Because that's really what the neurosciences studies, behavioral patterns, and that's what we work on at Velocity. And so it just becomes your default pattern that you operate the same way every day, distracted. You've got the committee, chattering in your mind all day long. You're not really focused on one specific thing at a time, right? And so when you change that, when you rewire that or change that pattern, then it becomes your new default to focus on one thing at a time and to just solely concentrate on that. And actually, studies have been proven about this. You mentioned productivity, right? We're at the lowest level of productivity right now. If you look at it on a per person, per hour basis, like you can point to all the things that you've done, right?
Right.
All the clicks that you've made and all of that. But really, we're at the lowest level ever in what we are accomplishing, because we're so distracted all the time. Yeah, so it's, we're zigging and zagging all over the place.
You mean accomplishing, like, if I have a checklist of day-to-day tasks, just not getting the tasks done, or if my employer assigns me something for the day, it's just not getting done. Is that what you mean?
Well, what I'm talking about are big projects.
Got it.
Yeah, like moving the ball down the field on something that's big and meaningful, right? Yeah, we can point to the list of tasks that we've accomplished every day, but where is it really getting us? What are we really achieving?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, because there's so much chatter. Yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff. We're busy. But what are we really achieving?
Interesting. So what does that mean? Like, what's the implications of that, do you think?
Well, I think it's what we've got to say no to. I think the pendulum, I'm starting to see the pendulum swing back, right? Like what we've seen with suicides among young people, right? This is why suicides have increased like 5-fold over the last few years, because our unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and contrived. And by contrived, I mean the contrived reality that we see on social media, right? It's totally contrived, right? It's not real. But our unconscious mind doesn't know the difference. It just knows what we, feed it, right? And so that's why I think we're seeing so many people that are pulling back from social media. They're pulling back from the news. I mean, I hear this every day with clients. I am not going to look at the news anymore. Or maybe I'm just going to look at it for 2 minutes on the headlines. And if I don't see something good and positive, then I'm done with it, right? So more than ever before, people are starting to take charge of what they are allowing into their mind, right? It's like what you're eating every day, right? When you take charge of that, you see really good results, right? It's the same thing with what you feed your mind. So this idea of no discipline is using discipline to say no to the things that are going to distract you. They're going to pull you off track. Even people, right? Like when I was pursuing the Ironman, honestly, I had to say no to quite a few people, one of whom was my husband at the time, who literally was getting in my way, who was saying things like, you do not have what it takes to do that. You will never get there. I mean, people like that are not supportive of what you're trying to accomplish.
Hence why she said husband at the time.
Yeah.
It's important.
I mean, we also have this with, maybe friends, maybe family members.
I hear it all the time from people I'm closest with. Relax, slow down, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Or take some time. I'm like, no, I have this huge vision. It's like, I physically can. I have so much momentum built up at this point.
Yeah. Even those folks that say, and this is just them putting their limiting beliefs on you.
Right. Yeah. So projecting, it's not even your own limiting beliefs. It's more of a projection of limiting beliefs, right?
Yes. When they say, well, what makes you think you can do that? Yeah. That is a projection.
I hear it all the time. And that's interesting. So just to clarify for people, one thing you touched on, what you're saying, especially in the world of automation and technology tools, and we're always trying to add stuff to make ourselves more productive. Mm-hmm. But what you're suggesting from a neuroscience perspective is it's more about eliminating things. Is that right? It's more about taking things away than anything.
Yeah, honestly, simple is better when it comes to learning how your mind works and how to get it to work the best on your behalf, right? How to tap into that power and to leverage it to make it easier on yourself to accomplish and get the outcomes that you want. And let me just let everybody in on a secret. So any major titan of success that you can point to in our current society, just pick anybody that you can name. Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, whoever you want to say. They all have tapped into this power of their unconscious mind. I mean, if you look at the simplicity of what they do and how they execute every day, it's the same way over and over and over. It is not complex. It is not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not difficult, right? They've tapped into this because they understand how their mind works, right? So that really holds the key. And I'm sort of stymied when I'm asked on shows about, well, what's the best app that you use? Or what's, the best online tool that you use? I mean, I don't even use Strava. I never have.
Strava.
Yeah. Strava is like an online tracking app for your exercise and fitness.
Oh,
and it allows you to, it's like the Facebook for fitness. So it allows you to log your workout and then compare to others.
Because you can get so hung up in the numbers and all that stuff. It's same with social people starting, because I think now, especially my peers starting businesses now, I talk to them all the time and they're getting hung up on well, I'm not going to get that many likes on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. They're concerning themselves with these metrics instead of, like you mentioned, what's actually moving the ball. It's so easy to get hung up on it. I've gotten caught in it. I still get caught in it. So
yeah.
I guess it comes back to like the neuroscience says, get rid of the noise, focus on the key things that are important. But so here's the question again, if you're going back to your exercise, Karen, when you're listing those things down, how do you focus on what is important and what is actually going to move the needle? Are there some key ways to identify that?
Yeah. After you've tapped into the dream, or even as you're identifying what dream you want to tap into, pay attention to how you feel about that. So we mentioned that emotional connection, right? That is the key. So when you come across something that you are just like, it jumps inside you, it energizes you from within, and it causes you to want to get right up and run out the door, to get started on it. That is the thing that you should be doing. And don't judge whatever that is, because that's where we get hung up, right? Like you said with Instagram likes. Well, I'm not going to, get that many likes, so I'm not going to do that, right? That's where we're judging something. So when you find this thing that just energizes you, ignites you, lights you on fire, gets all of your emotions going, don't judge it. Don't stop yourself by thinking, well, what if I don't get this? Or what if I don't have that, right? Another limiting belief. Or, well, what if I don't know exactly what to do right now, or how to do it, or how I'm going to get there, right? That's the other thing I hear a lot. Just take step one with it. You don't need to have the whole path folded out before you. You don't need to have it all figured out. I mean, when I started pursuing the Ironman, I didn't know what to do. I had no earthly idea what to do, right? And literally, the first thing I started with was I just started verbalizing it. This is another key in the book, is verbalizing what we want. And pardon me, I don't mean just saying it to yourself. Verbalizing means saying it to other people out loud, right? So it began for me at this barbecue that I went to. I didn't know anyone there. I was with my husband at the time. And I sat down, and the first person that I talked to was a gentleman, and he said, "So, what are you up to?" And I said, "Well, I've decided I'm going to pursue the Ironman World Championships." That was the first time I had ever mentioned it to anybody.
It felt awkward at first. I'm sure.
It felt really awkward.
Because they probably give you a look like, oh.
Oh, yeah. And I felt like an imposter. Like I was like, geez, wow. Look at me throwing that out there. And he said, wow, well, that's really cool. He said, you probably want a coach for that. My cousin did that, and he had a really great coach. Do you have any coaches lined up? And I said, that's a great idea. Honestly, I had never thought of that, right? That was brand new thinking to me. And I said, that's a great idea. Yeah, of course I want a coach. And so I said, yeah, do you know any? He said, yeah. So that week, I talked with that coach. I thought, well, I might as well talk to two others and just compare. This is another key, is hire a coach. And that's a whole nother show. And I picked the one who had gotten the best results with other athletes, getting them to Kona. And here's the other piece of that. and I've just got to throw this out there for your listeners, because I know what happens in these kinds of interviews. They automatically think that I'm a naturally talented athlete, or that this came easy for me, or that I got to focus on it full time, or that I had some advantage. I didn't. Folks, I am nothing special. Up until this point, I had done nothing remarkable other than the outward success I mentioned. And I literally had to talk this coach into taking me on. She didn't want to. I was a super nobody in this area. Yeah. I hadn't even done a triathlon or run a marathon. I had nothing to show her other than what I said was, and this was the key, was tapping into that emotional connection. And I said, you know what, coach? Here's the thing about me. I will never give up. I will be the most committed athlete you have ever seen. I will never give up until I cross that finish line. That's why she took me on, right? So when you can tap into that emotional connection that you have with your big, audacious dream or goal, that's what's going to carry you through. Verbalize that. Share that with people, because you know what? When I did that, then all of these people and connections and resources and ideas and information that I needed, they just came.
Do you feel for anybody to achieve the massive level of success that they're looking for, that hiring or I guess involving an outside party is a must? You can't just do this in your own chamber, your own ecosystem alone.
Absolutely. Yes. And case in point, here's the proof. So there were plenty of athletes that I knew at the time and have run across since, the 8 years that this happened, who said, well, what do I need a coach for? There are online programs for that. I can just download that. I can do what they say and I can get there. No, because every one of those athletes that I ran across, they ended up injured, or they made it far tougher than it needed to be. It took them far longer to achieve their goal, or they just stopped because they weren't making progress. They stopped believing and seeing any evidence that they could achieve it, and they just gave up.
Yeah.
But you know what? The coach, and this was a big learning opportunity for me, because I had never hired a coach before, right? I mean, I had coaches, within my organization, and I had been a coach, but I had never had an outside coach like this that I was paying. And I learned a big lesson there, that first of all, to have that outside observation, that outside objectivity was huge. And someone who believed in me at sometimes more than I believed in myself. Like, they saw the things in me, the ability to do what I was pursuing, right? And they would bring that up to me in times of doubt. Also, they would hold me accountable. Karen, you said you were going to do these 3 workouts today, and you've only done 2. And I know it's 6:30 at night, but you better get your ass back out there and do it. Otherwise, you're not going to get there. Now, here's the real deal, people. Friends, family, loved ones, they will not kick you in the ass like that. They won't. They want to love you. They want to make it okay. They want you to be comfortable. Your coach, they're there to do what you hired them for you to achieve what you want, right? And sometimes they take on that, more seriously than you do.
Yeah.
They care about that. Yeah. And it is the shortest path to success. It is the shortest path to mastery, right? I had to become masterful at triathlon. That takes 10,000 hours. Why would I want to take longer than 10,000 hours to do that?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Well, and that's really, I think one of my biggest downfalls in just me being me is I'm very confident in myself, but that also brings along ego, which made it tough for me years ago when I was starting my own kind of entrepreneurial big vision journey, is asking for feedback and asking for outside help. And I think that slows a lot of people down. And something a lot of guests have talked about as well, interestingly enough, who have achieved, really great success, is is like, whether or not you want to, you have to pull in outside people to keep you accountable and to, keep you moving forward. So in your books and in your content and stuff, do you share or do you have any specific tips for people on really like eating that ego and letting it go and being able to find outside help? Mentors, for example.
Mentors. Yeah. Look at that. Like Mile High mentors. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned ego, which is part of the unconscious mind. It really comes from this idea that, because we thought of it, it's the best way. Because it's our way, it's the right way. And, it is truly the person who has recognized how their unconscious mind works that realizes, hey, wait a minute. This is just a thought. This may not be the best way. This may not be the fastest way. This may not be effective, right? And to really get that information, you're right, we have to engage outsiders, right? Grant Cardone said this in his most recent book. He said he always has a coach to show him that outside perspective, that unbiased, unvarnished, right, version, right? Because we all need to hear the truth.
As much as it sucks.
Exactly.
To hear it.
Yeah. Because you know what? We do not come up with the truth in our own head.
Right.
As I've mentioned before, that's not how the unconscious mind works. And what happens is, we come up with a thought that is driven from the unconscious to keep us in our current state, right? To keep us comfortable.
Out of harm's way.
Out of harm's way, yep. And to stay in that same pattern that we've always had, right? And so that's the real dangerous place, right? To stay there. Yeah. And it's not truth. It only lives in our head. That's the only place that crap lives, right? So if you just go ask someone, hey, what if you were going to do this? How would you approach it? I guarantee you they're going to throw out a different idea than you had. So what we think up in our own head, we think is truth. We think is reality. It is not. It is only one perspective. It's only an idea.
And that goes down to consciousness. We could have a whole full-blown discussion. Karen, I got to start wrapping this thing up. This has been incredible. We're going to have to do this again a year from now when Karen's got a big announcement. So you guys make sure you give her a follow and everything to see what she's working on in the background. But first off, if you can, shout out your books and where people can find them and the best way to get into contact with you.
Okay. So the book is Unlimiting Your Beliefs, 7 Keys to Greater Success in Your Personal and Professional Life. You can find that anywhere books are sold. Probably the easiest place is Amazon. Don't forget about Barnes & Noble because they do an online business too, and they don't like to be the stepchild of Amazon.
Man, and, crazy world.
I know it is. Right. Also, when you have an aha from the book, because I've been contacted by people from all over the world, the latest is from India.
Wow.
When you have an aha, leave that in a review. That helps other people so much. Yeah, just like sharing this podcast, sharing content, and you can share content from my book. Please do. Share it far and wide. That's how we all help each other eradicate limiting beliefs and live our true potential. Okay, so that's where you can find the book. Then go to my website, velocityleadershipconsulting.com. That's probably the easiest place to find all these tools, everything that I've mentioned and more. And then you can find us all over social media, either Velocity Leaders, that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Karen Brown Author. No, sorry, Read Karen Brown. That's on the same social media channels. And finally, LinkedIn is Velocity Leadership Consulting.
Do you personally use one of those social channels more than the other?
We use all of them. I might have help with that. Yes. I must say, just recently, we're starting to use Twitter a little bit more. Sometimes we see Instagram pulling ahead. We go with trends and we go that way. Sometimes, Facebook is more popular. What are you seeing?
Me, I mean, for what you do, like, I don't know. It depends. Like I think that really anybody who's 15 years old to 50 years old can definitely use your information. So it's good that you got the spread. I follow you. I follow you on Instagram, and I read your reviews and all that good stuff, and follow you on LinkedIn. For those of you guys that are local here to Colorado, and Karen, any connections, partnerships, any sort of, I guess, resources you're looking for currently that you just want to shout out while you got the audience?
Sure. Yeah. Anybody out there that, first of all, is looking to improve their leadership, performance, and impact. That's our sweet spot. That's what we do. We have a whole roster of incredible, highly, highly talented coaches. And we are a national company, so we're headquartered in Denver, of course. But we can work with anyone, anywhere. And, the folks, the leaders that we work with, just exclaim glowingly about the paternal changes they're able to make in behavior that cause them to be able to make a much bigger, better impact more easily and with more velocity than they ever dreamed was possible, right? So usually when we start working with someone, we establish goals and objectives for the first 6 months. And usually in about 5 weeks, we've achieved those. Because we're working in the neurosciences and behavioral patterns, right? Yeah,
you're able to get straight to the root cause of it all, right?
Yeah, what's the pattern? What's the root cause? And then through things like neuro-linguistic programming and our expertise in coaching in that realm, we're able to facilitate change really fast and so much easier. They always say, gosh, this is so much easier than I ever thought. This is so much easier than any other coaching I've ever done. Yeah. And then also, if you're looking for a mentor, you're looking for support, and what, I'm just going to be totally real. There's a part of our website that we dedicate to people who are lost. They are unmotivated. They're stagnant. Maybe they feel like they're struggling to just tread water, and they're not in touch with what their potential is or their big, scary, audacious dream. They're just kind of lost. I have a whole series for those folks to help you get unstuck and find what those things are for you. And it's all, again, I share all of these techniques and a lot more that I haven't shared today because that's a whole nother program.
We could do probably 5-10 hours of podcasting together. There's still a lot of things that we didn't get to, but we'll definitely do it again. And I'm super grateful for you doing this. I really appreciate it. And guys, still listening, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review before you leave today. And we'll see you on the next one. We'll talk to you next time.